Today, another in our series of conversations with our friends, part of the pipeline at Run for Something. You all asked for more examples of leaders you can recruit and endorse and support and fund and hold their feet to the fire, who are working on the things you can touch and feel, like climate and health and democracy. So that's what these conversations are today. I'm excited to introduce you to Sophia Gibb. She is a public servant and elite athlete who knows what it means to perform under pressure, which is what our elections are. So she is the elections deputy for Chaffee County in Colorado, where she is responsible for running secure, accessible elections backed by advanced national certifications in election administration. Before that, Sophia led emergency preparedness efforts in public health, also obviously super timely. So resilience is quite literally part of her job description. And of course, outside government, Sophia is a two-time Paralympic medalist, multi-time world champion, and the former Team USA Paralympic captain who has advocated for equity on the global stage and on Capitol Hill. So whether she is strengthening democracy by example or competing at quite literally the highest levels of sport, she brings discipline, leadership, and a deep, deep commitment and kindness, frankly, to community and to everything she does here. Again, all of the guests in this series are sourced from the Run for Something pipeline in the graduating classes. These are truly our next generation of leaders, if we'll have them, if we'll keep it. If these conversations inspire you, please do three things. One, find out what office you or some other amazing young person can run for at runforwhat.net. You can find and support incredible candidates who are already out there, who are endorsed by Run for Something, or Emily's List, or Planned Parenthood, or Gifford, and other incredible organizations at whatcanido.earth. And of course, please share these conversations. They are so cool, and someone who has Sophia's job is in every county. Whether that's someone who's doing the job well and for the people as a representative of them, or someone who's not, it is an office that needs to be filled and needs to be run well if this whole little experiment is going to continue. So please enjoy my conversation with Sophia Gibb. Sophia Gibb, welcome to the show. Really excited to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Not very often we have a Paralympic team captain, world champion, who also, for some forsaken reason, has decided to run for public office to defend, democracy. So thank you for all of it. I'm so excited to talk about your whole thing. I want to hear about all of your training, your transition over to running, which is crazy. Sure, why not? And running for public office, maybe even your husband. But first, we got to talk about Odie, because that's actually the only thing I care about here. Tell me more about Odie.
He's a 6-year-old mutt. We DNA tested him because we have no children, and he's our child. And he turned out to be a great peer Australian cattle dog, but he just looks kind of like a black lab, black
Sure.
mutt. We got him during COVID, and he's just our child.
Oh, that's the best, isn't it? By the way, better than children, to be very clear. I mean, love my kids. However, is he out running with you and things like that?
He is my running partner, yes.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I will just need 4 to 5 pictures of Odie later, if that's okay. I will, in exchange, send you pictures of Lucy, who sometimes runs with me. Most of the time, she just wants to be with her mom, which, as explained, is fair. Let's talk about this. You were on air recently at the Olympics because you actually knew what it's like to be an athlete at these things and could walk the walk, unlike, a lot of folks who don't understand what it's like to have that pressure and that training and things like that. How did your whole Paralympic journey and all of your training and all of that prepare you to say, I'm now going to stand up for democracy?
Looking back at my career, sports is still, to this day, a huge part in my life. Sports taught me discipline and resilience and how to work hard and communicate with people and to go for a goal. And I know how to work under pressure pretty well. So I think it gave me those foundation blocks for this next chapter in my life.
What are the practical responsibilities, I guess, as advertised and as maybe you experienced them not as captain and then as captain of the Paralympic team?
Yeah, I was the team captain in 2021 at the Tokyo Paralympic Games, and that was kind of a different, I think, not advertised and not known was the whole pandemic.
Yeah, sure. You're welcome.
Yeah, there was a level of our responsibility as captains to hold the team accountable for keeping the 20 plus of us safe in some capacity. I just remember at the end, some teammates just wanting to break our rules and, break the isolation that we had.
Sure.
And we couldn't do it because we still had teammates competing.
Yeah.
And that was pretty hard because I wanted to break it too. I was
Of course.
done competing and
That's human.
wanted to go see friends and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think that was something I wasn't prepared for in that role.
I don't know how you would be. I don't know who would be. I mean, the fact that you all were able to still go and compete during that time, to travel and then go and compete during that time. It's one thing, not to diminish them, but like, the NBA going into their bubble down at Disney World and building a whole thing and all that. Like, it's hard. You're away from your families for a long time, but you guys really traveled and, were mixed in with so many other folks from around the world.
Yeah, and I remember part of that was, we flew from the States to Tokyo and we all sat in this room in the airport in Tokyo and we all got COVID tested and the whole plane had to test negative. And if one person tested positive, the whole plane was going back to the States. So,
Holy shit.
we're sitting there for like 3 hours hoping it was out of our control. A little PTSD from
I was
that.
going to say, does that feel like 6 months ago or 100 years ago to you?
Depends on the day,
Yeah.
but it's like one of those core memories that I don't think I'll ever forget sitting there.
Well, thank you for your leadership. That's incredible. Watching any of it from afar was just like, I can't imagine the logistics required to try and pull this off so that folks like yourself who've been training for years can do the thing.
And I think part of it too was, our families couldn't go. And so making it fun and, you can't replace that aspect of having your friends and family in the stands, but still celebrating your teammates, completing something that, is once in a lifetime.
Sure.
I think they released a stat of like 0.002% make it to the games and medal. And I remember, when I won my bronze medal, I had to get drug tested. So, by the time I got back to my dorms, it was midnight and my roommate was asleep. My family back in the States was asleep because they stayed up all night to watch me. And I took a selfie in the elevator with a PB&J and that was my dinner.
Oh my God, that's my dinner 5 nights a week. But that's it.
Yeah, I was like, good, nice job, Sophie.
Yeah.
You did it.
Oh my God, wow. When did you really choose to say, I'm going to settle in this part of Colorado? And when did it stick out to you that most people have no idea what public offices exist in their town or county or city, much less might be available to them, like what the qualifications might be required besides a bronze medal, much less like some of these more nuanced ones, like, what you're working on. Tell us a little bit about that.
I lived at the Olympic Training Center for about 6 years.
Colorado
and then
Springs?
In 2019, yep. My partner, now husband, and I decided to move to Salida. I wanted to have a change in training, and my partner then was retiring from professional cycling. So we moved to Salida, and I trained here for 2 years leading into the Tokyo 2021 games. Within that 2 years, I realized I was going to retire after Tokyo. So I kind of just started putting my feelers out for jobs to make my transition from professional sports into reality.
It's terrible.
Easiest, the easiest way. And I actually got a job in public health first, in local government. And I really enjoyed that. One of the nurses there, her wife was the clerk, or is the clerk. And they had the elections director position opening up. And I always kind of showed an interest in politics. I always loved watching CNN on election night and watching, all the states, turn in their election results. And so I thought it'd be super fun and moved over to the elections role in 2024, 2 weeks before the general election. So it was a nice swift kick
I was gonna say,
of my
great timing.
first 2 weeks in the job. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And then my clerk wants to retire, and I was kind of, next in line, and she thought I would be good at the role, and here we
Here
are.
we are. What is it about local? Again, we use the word politics, and it's obviously and understandably got such negative connotations. But you are really like this fundamental, again, if unrecognized piece of like the really vital machinery. Again, like you said, 2 weeks before 2024, it's going to get real here again in a few months. There's a real difference between that being such a vital cog in literally how things are counted and making sure the rules shared and broadcast and stuck with, versus watching, what's that guy's name on CNN? Steve. Watching Steve, do the maps. And there's 1,000 rules in between. What is it about this one?
I think, especially in Chaffee County is kind of considered like a small, medium county for Colorado. And the clerk is a working role. So she's not just sitting behind a desk and, clicking her computer. She's down there elbows deep processing ballots and taking care of democracy. And that's really fun. And it's really an honor to have that responsibility for my county to make sure every citizen has their voices heard in voting.
Not everybody wants that responsibility.
It's a big one for sure, and it's in the front page of the paper. It's front lines in the news. David Becker's big into elections, if you've ever listened to him, and he's given out the stats nationwide. It's like less than a percentage of non-citizens are even on voter rolls, and it's by accident off of driver's licenses. They're not even trying to commit voter fraud.
Right. Let's educate people a little bit. So what does the apparatus around a clerk look like, I guess, personnel-wise and duties-wise again, it's July, in the months coming up to November. So who are you working with? What are their roles? How do they support you?
In Colorado, so the clerk and recorder oversees elections, motor vehicle, where you get your vehicle licensed and titled, and recording. So we're public deeds, marriage licenses. She's the overseer of all that. Right now, we're wrapping up our primary election, which happened on June 30th. So we just actually completed our audit yesterday.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, where the Secretary of State randomly selects. We had 82 ballots. So they give us all the numbers, and we have a bipartisan team that comes in, and we pick all those ballots out of all the boxes and re-put them in, and they have to equal what was scanned on election night, and we had a 0% discrepancy, so everything was correct. So just wrapping that up right now and kind of just getting ready for the general, reordering, making sure at this stage, just making sure we have all the supplies we need, reaching out to judges to see if they're available, kind of before the storm. Getting prepared.
And I'm in Virginia, where we have like a election every 6 weeks, it feels like at this point, and somehow still all in off years. None of it makes any sense. How much does the relative chaos of the past few elections help you go, okay, this is what we need to really have straight and have ready to go, like you said, making sure judges are available and things like that for November?
I think it changes every year. Or every election at least. We learn something new every time. I think we're getting ready for a lot of observers and watchers this election, making sure our supervisor judges are very educated on what they can and can't do as watchers, and that they feel safe, and they know how to use their panic buttons if they need it, and what electioneering is. That they can't do it within 100 feet of a vote center. Really working on our education and communication with that.
Local politics always feels like I'm describing like the Batman underworld or something. But like as you've gotten into this, are there groups, maybe statewide Colorado groups that focus on election information, voting information, get out the vote stuff, infrastructure you can rely on anyway, even if informally, to make sure not just your office is ready to do this, but the voting population as itself is ready to engage and prepare with everything you've put together?
Yeah, I think the state and just nationwide, there's been a huge get out the vote. And I think people are, after the past couple nationwide federal elections, are really following and trying to stay educated and making sure their voices are heard. Yeah, we rely on a little bit of that. And then our clerk is really open for people that may have questions to come and tour, our processing room and see, it's really nice. She has signs that, you can sit in the room and watch the life cycle of the ballot of, how it gets to,
I might have to come visit. That sounds amazing.
yeah, from your hands to
Yeah,
the 25-month storage, essentially.
that's amazing. That's very exciting to me. A friend of mine published a book a few years ago, and he's such a nerd, and I appreciate it so much. I'll send you the link to it. He decided he wanted to watch the entire book production process, start to finish. So of course he made like a 6-part podcast literally about just like his book being made, like from the paper being pulped and all this stuff. And I was like, I'm in. I'm full. I'm in. The whole thing sounds amazing. How is Colorado as far as feeling prepared for the months to come? Everybody, the whole like the biggest election of our lives thing gets really old and really redundant if it's every time. At the same time, there's a little truth to it every time. But how do you feel supported by the state?
Colorado's kind of like the golden standard for elections, and then all of the clerks have the Colorado Clerk Association, so there's just a ton of support. I know Colorado is a state that leads election purity, accuracy, the whole shebang. So really lucky to be able to work in Colorado in this field.
Again, as far as like educating people, like whether you're gonna run for something or not, understanding like what roles are available and what they aren't and what they do, but also, we're really interested in what is like really transferable from municipality to municipality, even within the same state. Like, are there best practices? Are there ways to campaign or to run this office that you feel are effective in some of these bigger counties, like a Colorado Springs, like a Boulder?
I think within the Clerks Association for Colorado, it's really cool because it's like, going back to my sports background, it's like they're all on the same team. I know all 64 of them have a group text message, and they're working through things together.
Yeah.
Whatever may be coming down the pike, they're communicating with each other and they're working it through because at the end of the day, we're just trying to run, the election.
Yeah, and I imagine it's really one of those, not unlike a team captain, in not even the middle of a pandemic, right? The first third or whatever of a pandemic in a country on the other side of the world. Like, there's not a lot of people outside that group chat that know what you're going through, what you're dealing with.
Colorado had Tina Peters that was just released from prison. So, that's kind of played another element into one of the loud voices in the background.
What does a measurably, you just, you recounted your quite literally recounted your primary, but you also just recounted it to us as being successful, everything measured up. You had the bipartisan teams come in, you felt good about that, and now you're able to prep with a fresh mind. For the general, what does a measurably positive, successful outcome look like? Again, like you said, let's say by end of November, early December.
Chaffee County is small considerably, but just people believing that, the clerks are running fair and free elections and that, their vote is heard,
Yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day.
How do you get that feedback from people?
I think when people come and become an election judge or come and, tour our ballot processing, a lot of people are pretty educated and they just know Colorado, everything we do. Like we have a pre-audit before we even start processing stuff. So, and people are pretty educated on that. But just for some of those people in the back that are pretty loud, we're not doing anything nefarious. We're just
hard to hide. But at the same time, that is an even bigger test, right? There's no like margin or like percentage of error that everyone goes like, well, it's a 0.5%. Obviously, we're arguing over things that don't exist half the time. But what does a county with, again, measurably very little to hide and running a tight ship where you can watch the ballot's life cycle, what do you feel like you all can teach some of these bigger counties that are under a different kind of pressure and running a more complex system?
We're just on such a smaller scale that we can like bring it ballot to ballot. It's a little bit more of a manageable plate, I guess we could call it, for someone who's trying to watch. Because I know I look at Denver County and I'm like, oh my God, they're processing the amount of ballots. in a day that we process in our whole election. That's mind-boggling. So for us as a smaller county, it's just a little bit more comprehensible, I think, per se.
What are the biggest obstacles you are facing in your campaign and your governance going forward? Like, what are you looking forward to going, that's something I'm going to have to not deal with necessarily, but really try to work on?
I'm running unopposed. I'm not I'm not really helping with the election this year since I'm on the ballot. We decided to, as an
How
office,
civilized of you. That seems insane today.
yeah, I don't even have access to the ballot processing room. So if I need to get down there for whatever reason, I have a chaperone.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I think just, you know, that message in itself that, we're really respectful of it.
At what point after the election are you allowed to do your job? Because you're right, it is you are running for something that is so intimately tied into the thing itself.
Once the election is done, so after the canvass in November, I would assume the clerk will give me access back. And it's just, this is a funky year since I'm on the ballot. We decided to.
But it's a great litmus test, right? If counties like yours aren't saying, look, we don't have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people, much less millions, that might swing this or that, but we're going to play by the rules very clearly, because clearly that is the right thing to do. Like, you should not be intimately involved with the process this time. It should be a standard. Like, that's meaningful. Again, you said you're running unopposed, but you really do care about this position and your county and Colorado and elections and politics and stuff. How do you balance the stress and pressures of that in your current job? How much are you able to take care of yourself, do, like you said, your running and OD time and your partner time and things like that?
I think I'm still trying to figure out the balance, honestly. When I'm stressed, I exercise, like my brain's out. And I'll be honest, I'm exercising my brains out like the past couple of weeks. But it helps me, like mentally, I can kind of just zone out and put some miles in my shoes with the dog and clear my head a little bit.
How long did it take after, maybe not at all, did it take after your professional career to discover what a vital sort of piece of mental infrastructure that running is, or swimming, or whatever combination it is, before you're like, oh, I actually need this thing that I've been doing as, career?
Still swim twice a week with the masters team, which is really nice. I always feel really like 8 o'clock rolls around and I feel like I could accomplish anything, I feel pretty grounded. I think when I retired from professional sports, it took me a bit to I poured myself into work and reality, and then I found the balance, and now it's a little out of whack of just the high pressure, high stress happening right now in my life. It'll stay with me forever.
Oh, wait, I have a more important question. Can Odie come to the office?
Odie's not an office dog.
So 2 different questions.
Yeah, Odie.
Can other dogs come to the office? Probably. Can Odie?
Yeah. I think I would get some. People would not be thrilled with Odie being at the office. And Odie would not be thrilled at being at the office. So probably bark at every single person that walked by my office. So.
Oh my God, it's not an emergency, Odie. Like, not everything has to be an emergency. Yeah, I'm very aware of what that means. I've had enough doodle combinations over the past 15 years who are just constantly on high alert. You're like, it's just wind. It's just wind. Amazing. Who else is running for local or state office that you really feel like can be a contributor to this democracy project of yours?
Every clerk in Colorado is up for election. So
okay.
And then the Secretary of State's up this year. That's on the ballot as well in Colorado. And that's kind of who, as clerks, we report to.
I appreciate your attention and devotion to the nitty gritty of not just does a person feel heard, but am I abiding by the process before I'm even part of it? How can that be an example for everything else?
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. How does your partner feel about being married to a politician?
I think it depends on the day. He does not enjoy watching CNN as much as I
Uh-huh.
do. I was in Italy working with NBC covering the Paralympic Games. While I was away was when the caucus was, and I got my nomination through the caucus. And he nominated me. So he was my nomination.
Look
So,
at that. That's so
yeah,
special. Oh,
yeah.
that's amazing. And then he's like, I'm out.
Since I'm not running a huge campaign and it's our first one, he's my campaign manager, and so it's definitely a family affair. He definitely likes me to leave it at the front door when I come home. For
I get
sure.
it. I get it.
That's
My wife and
our
I have
boundary.
definitely struggled with that on and off over the years. It's hard in today's age, right? To whatever the if it involves any sort of electronic device in any way, it's very difficult to do that. But we have found there's times you're like, you got to do what you got to do, and there's times where it's like, no, let's have a little church and state. Like it can go a long way, right? I don't want to say like the election can wait until tomorrow, but sometimes it's okay. Just the number of people who are like, no, I see the news, I understand what's important, or I see these actions, like I'm doing a bunch of them. They're like, but I really struggle to, and this is like our readers and listeners, we're like, I struggle to see and find people fighting for the thing that I can vote for, that are working on the issues that I can personally touch and see and feel. And that's really local and state. And so that's why I love these conversations so much, because I hope someone can, even if it's not in your county or even in Colorado, they can go like, oh shit, I bet I have a clerk. Like, why are they doing that job? Who's doing that? What kind of person does that job? Should I do that job? And if we can accomplish that, then I feel like we've done our job here. So thank you for standing up and doing it. That's it. You can read our critically acclaimed newsletter and get notified about new podcast conversations at importantnotimportant.com. Thanks so much for listening. And thanks for giving a shit.